Ever had one of those moments when the world feels like it's closing in? Your chest tightens, your breath turns shallow, and anger flares up, hot and fast, like a spark hitting dry grass. Maybe it's a spilled coffee staining your shirt, a harsh word slicing through the morning quiet, or a dream slipping through your fingers. We've all been there, trapped in that wildfire of the heart, where every little thing feels like a battle. The heat climbs, the pulse races, and suddenly you're lost in it, yelling at the wind, breaking what you love most, then sitting in the wreckage wondering why it's so hard to just be. It's a heavy load, isn't it? Carrying that storm inside, fighting to keep your head above water when the waves keep crashing. Days stretch into nights, and you start to wonder if peace is just a fairy tale, a distant shore you'll never reach. But what if there's a way through? Not to bury the pain, not to pretend it's not there, but to hold it differently. A way to stand steady when life shakes you to the core, to find calm not by dodging the chaos, but by walking straight into it, with eyes wide open. The Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger, but by it." It's not the spilled cup or the cutting remark that shackles us. It's the chains we hammer out in the furnace of our own minds. He taught that peace isn't a price dangling out there in the world, waiting for us to grab it. It's a seed buried deep within, sprouting with every mindful breath, every step we take with intention. The mind is everything, he said. What you think, you become. Long ago, a man wrestled with that same torment, the sting of his own folly, the weight of a life unraveling thread by thread. He carried it all to Gautama Buddha, his sandals dragging through the dust, his voice cracking with a plea born of despair. His story isn't just his, it's ours, a reflection of every time we've stumbled and yearned for something more. And it unfolds like this. Once upon a time, a man trudged across a sun-scorched plain, the dry earth crunching beneath his worn sandals. His shoulders sagged under an invisible burden, his face carved with lines of exhaustion, eyes dimmed by nights spent wrestling shadows. Anger roared in his chest like a beast clawing to break free, and frustration wrapped tight around his ribs, squeezing until he could barely breathe. He'd shouted at his wife that morning over a broken pot, kicked a stone down the path in a fit of rage, and now the shame of it all gnawed at him like a hungry dog. He'd heard of the sage beneath the Bodhi tree, a man who spoke of peace like it was something real, not just a whisper on the wind. So he came, stumbling over roots and rocks, until he collapsed at Buddha's feet, dust rising around him. "Please," he rasped, voice raw as torn cloth, "help me tame this fire inside. It's burning me alive." Buddha's gaze met his, warm as a river kissed by sunlight, steady as the earth beneath them. With a gentle nod, he patted the ground, the air heavy with sandalwood and stillness. "Teeth," he said, his voice a quiet current. "Let me weave you a towel." In a kingdom of golden fields, stretching to the horizon, where merchants haggled over silks and fish in bustling markets, a king sat on a throne of dark teak, its edges worn smooth by generations. His crimson robes shimmered in the flickering torchlight, gold thread catching the glow like captured stars. His land prospered. Granaries overflowed, rivers ran clear. But his heart twitched with a restless itch he couldn't name. Word reached him of a neighboring ruler, whose wisdom flowed like a still pond, undisturbed by the world's clamor. Intrigued, he ordered his chariot readied, its gilt wheels gleaming under the midday sun. The journey wound through emerald hills, hooves clattering on stone paths, until he arrived at a palace of white marble, draped in jasmine vines, their scent weaving through the breeze. The wise king greeted him with a bow, his linen robes brushing the polished floor, his eyes crinkling with a quiet knowing. A feast awaited. Tables sagged under mounds of spiced rice, roasted figs dripping with sweetness, and goblets of honeyed wine. The air alive with laughter and the lilting strum of a lute. But as the visiting king raised a silver spoon to his lips, savoring the steam curling from his soup. A black fly bobbed on its surface, wings glinting in the candlelight. His stomach churned, a sour twist of disgust. The hall hushed as he slammed the spoon down, the clang echoing off the walls, his voice a thunderclap splitting the silence. "Bring me another bowl, now." My servants scurried, heads bowed. But the wise king merely tilted his head, his face weathered like driftwood smoothed by the sea. "Your Majesty," he said, voice soft as a pebble slipping into a stream. "Why let a tiny fly topple your joy? It's a speck, a shadow in this grand weave of life." The proud king's jaw tightened, his pulse thudding beneath his silk collar, cheeks flushing with the sting of wounded pride. "A speck," he snarled, voice sharp as a blade. "It's filth. It ruins everything." The wise king's lips curved, gentle as dawn spilling over the hills. "The filth isn't in the soup. It's in the tempest you've whipped up inside. Hold the reins of your heart, or it'll drag you through the mud." The words fell like cool rain on cracked earth, soaking into the king's bones. He leaned back, the clink of his goblet fading as a new stillness settled over him. Back in his palace, where banners snapped in the breeze against a cerulean sky, he tested this wisdom. One evening, as twilight painted the halls in amber, a servant tripped, splashing wine across the marble floor, the red pooling like blood over his polished boots. The old fury surged, hot, sharp, a dagger in his throat. His fists clenched, veins bulging. But he remembered the wise king's words. He shut his eyes, drew a breath that carried the scent of cedar from the open windows, and let the storm pass. It wasn't easy. His chest heaved, his pride screamed, but the tension unwound, thread by fragile thread. Days turned to weeks, and his court began to whisper. The king's voice had softened. His edicts carried a clarity they'd never known. He stood taller, his crown resting lighter, a man remade in the hush that follows a gale. Even his queen noticed, her fingers brushing his arm one night, as she murmured, "You've changed. The air around you feels different." He smiled, a rare warmth in his eyes, and nodded. The lesson had rooted deep. Across oceans and centuries, beneath a sky streaked with pink and gold, Michael lived in a cramped apartment, its walls scuffed and peeling, the hum of city life seeping through cracked windows. His temper was a wildfire, sudden, fierce, leaving ash and regret in its wake. Shouts ricocheted off the thin walls as he hurled words like jagged stones, his hazel eyes blazing with a fury he couldn't tame. Friends slipped away, their footsteps fading down the stairwell, leaving him alone with the echo of his own voice. Guilt gnawed at him, a relentless ache, until one rainy night, lightning slashing through the blinds, he sank onto a threadbare couch, tears carving hot trails down his face. "I can't keep breaking everything," he choked out, voice swallowed by the drumming rain. He'd lost his sister's trust after a fight over nothing, a spilled glass of water, and the silence between them cut deeper than any blade. Hungry for peace, he lit a candle, its flame trembling like his shaky resolve, and sank to the floor, legs crossed, hands trembling on his knees. Mindfulness became his lifeline, each breath a rope pulling him back from the edge of his own chaos. At the diner where he worked, grease popping in the air, his boss barked orders one sweltering afternoon. "Faster, Michael! You're dragging us down!" His fists balled, nails biting into his palms, the old urge to snap crackling like static. He could feel it, electric, searing, the words rising like bile. But he pushed through the swinging door, stepped into the alley where the breeze cooled his flushed skin, and breathed. Inhale, the crunch of gravel under his sneakers. Exhale, the distant hum of traffic. The heat drained away, leaving a fragile clarity in its place. It was brutal work, like hauling stones up a mountain, sweat beading on his brow. But he kept at it. Over time, The diner's chaos lost its grip on him. His voice, once a whip cracking through the air, softened to a steady hum. Friends lingered longer, their laughter spilling over the booth, and his sister called one night, her voice tentative but warm. "You sound different, Mike. Can we talk?" One dusk, as the horizon swallowed the sun in a blaze of orange, a friend slumped beside him on a sagging porch swing, eyes red and swollen from crying. "Life's crushing me," he whispered, voice brittle as dry leaves. Michael's chest ached, a tender bruise of empathy, but he didn't flinch. He rested a hand on his friend's shoulder, the wood creaking beneath them, and spoke, words slow and warm, like honey seeping into cracked earth. His friend looked up, eyes wide with wonder. "You're a rock. Don't you ever crack." Michael's laugh rumbled low, the memory of that first candlelit night flickering in his mind. "I crack all the time. Anger still kicks at me, sorrow too. I feel it clawing sometimes like a wolf at the door. But I hold it, let it breathe, let it pass. It's a fight worth winning." His friend nodded, a faint spark of hope lighting his face, and they sat there as the stars blinked awake, the air thick with honeysuckle and possibility. Michael's name began to ripple through the neighborhood, the guy with steady hands and eyes like calm water after a storm. He'd sit on that porch, tracing his journey from the ashes of rage to this fragile, hard-won peace. Tears would slip free, warm against his skin, gratitude swelling in his throat like a song he couldn't sing loud enough. "This is living," he'd murmur, the stars winking above, each one a witness to his quiet triumph. The practice was a daily dance. Some mornings, anger still snarled, pacing like a caged animal. But he'd meet it with a breath, a pause, a choice. The joy of connection, the weightlessness of letting go, fueled him through every step. The man at Buddha's feet, the king and Michael, they light a path through the brambles of our lives. Life will always toss flies in our soup, thorns in our hearts, moments that prick and provoke. But we don't have to bleed out every time. Mindfulness is our lantern. Its glow soft but unyielding, cutting through the dark. Buddha's voice threads through their stories, steady and clear. Anger festers where resentment takes root. Uproot it, and peace blooms wild and free. He warned, your anger doesn't punish the world. It poisons you, drop by bitter drop, until you're the one left hollow. Relish these truths, gems ablaze in the darkness. Peace isn't some far-off land to flee to. It's the fire you kindle in your chest, warm and defiant against the biting wind. The mind is a potter's wheel. Spin it wildly and you mold ruin. Hold it steady in stillness and you shape a masterpiece. Clinging to anger is like sipping poison drop by drop, eyes locked on another, waiting for them to well. Yet it's you who collapse. Letting go is wings unfurling wide, the gust that lifts you, soaring over boundless horizons. Hatred is a blaze that devours itself. Only the rain of love, tender yet fierce, can quench its flames. Every dawn brings a test, a spilled cup, a sharp word, a wound torn open anew. The world doesn't stop throwing punches, and some days the bruises pile up fast. But we can choose to breathe through the sting, to answer with a heart cracked wide and singing, raw but alive. Feel it all, the ache that sinks into your bones, the fury that sets your blood boiling, the fleeting joy that dances through like sunlight on water. And stand anyway. Practice this. Claw for it with everything you've got. Let it shatter you into 1,000 pieces, then stitch you back together stronger, softer, whole. As Buddha said, master yourself, and no battlefield can rival your glory. It's not a quick fix or a fairy tale ending. It's a road, rough and winding, but it's yours to walk. May this path carve peace into our bones, step by quaking step, until we shine like lanterns in the dusk, lighting the way for ourselves and each other.